ok? Estamos ao vivo na Top com a escritora Carmen Maria Machado e a entrevistada hoje pela Mônica Arouca, jornalista, escritora, doutora em Comunicação.
Hello, thanks for coming, thanks for accepting our invitation here at Top Magazine. We are going to talk about Her Body and Other Parties, a book you published in 2017, yeah, and it's already considered a great success. And you frequently write short stories, especially about the women conditions in a very violent society, and how we deal with such a brutal environment around the female body. Is it correct?
Yeah.
And well, I have been following your interviews, and I think the queer literature, for example, or talking about our body, our female body, can not be just always a kind of survivor, a kind of anguish. We have to talk about, okay, it can be fun, it can be good, and how do you think your readers can deal with this? Different extreme points.
Yeah, well, it was very important to me when I was writing this book that I both, captured something very essential about what it is to be a woman and a queer person in the world and to have a body, but I also didn't want it to be so sad that no one would want to read it, and also so sad that it seemed like it was only about pain and suffering. And so for me, it was important to think about, what is also the pleasure, and where can we find pleasure, and how can we live the lives that we want to live. And so to me, it was very important to sort of show both, to be sure you're being, accurate to the problems, and then also, showing the pleasures and the joys.
Yeah, and talk about the title of the book. This play on words, parties and parts. How this concerns the female body and your writing.
Yeah, well, I was really interested in that title because I feel like it also, there's several sort of ways of reading it in English. The word parties, it's like a celebration or, just like a party that you go to, but also there's this idea of like having parts, and also a party like in a legal dispute. There's like parties that sort of go against each other. And so I was just really interested in having this this word that sort of could be read in so many ways. And then of course when it was translated, it's now been translated I think into 22 languages. And every translator comes to me and says, what do we do about the title? Because that sort of meaning might not exist in that language. And so for some of them, so like in Spanish, it's just fiestas, but in other languages, they've chosen sort of different, like I know in German, it's more sort of, it means more people, kind of, or like, it has more of a person meaning as opposed to a celebration. So different languages have done different things with the titles, which is very interesting to me.
Are you concerned, are you worried about how the translations can be around the world? For example, another different culture that doesn't accept the female body as we are here in Brazil, in Europe, or in States.
I think that if it's been bought and it's been translated, that it means that people want to read it. And that's very exciting to me.
Yeah, and we have been seeing, due to the feminist movements, a paradigm breaking in several orders, male and female, social papers, genders. In your opinion, have we been provoking men to act, to behave differently to women? How do you feel that?
I wish I could say that I thought it was good. I wish I thought I could say, in the United States, for example, we talk about Me Too, and I think sometimes people feel optimistic. They're like, this is going to change things, it's going to make things better. And I don't think it will. I wish I could say that I thought it would, but I think that people in power, and that includes men, it includes white people, it includes straight people, they have no reason to give up the power that they have, even though it's unearned. And I think that they will fight very hard to keep it. And so I worry that, you know, we forget so quickly, like the lessons that we've learned. And so I mean, whether or not, I mean, I'd like to think that, you know, little changes are happening, but I don't think culture is going to just shift overnight because we're talking about feminism more or whatever. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
So, do you think the ghosts that have been frightening us for, I don't know, since the past, they will disappear one day? If so, how your literature will be read in the future?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to disappear.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that all you can do is sort of teach people how to survive and teach people how to make their own spaces. Do you want me to hold the book? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, we can teach people to make their own spaces. We can't make sexism go away, but we can. We can help people teach people to survive.
Yeah. And how do you like a Flippy Parrot International Literacy Festival?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was really incredibly exciting. Parachi was beautiful. I met so many amazing readers and fans and made new friends, and it was just a really, really wonderful event.
I'd like to, may I take it?
Yes.
There's two very strong phrases in here.
Mm-hmm.
I can't read in English, but you choose them.
The epigraphs.
My body is like
my body is a haunted house that I lost in.
And God would be have be done. I don't know how to quote in English, but why just so strong? It's just so strong phrases.
So the one quote is from a poem by this American poet named Jackie Germain, and it is, "My body is a haunted house that I am lost in. It has no doors, but it has knives and I think 200 windows," or something like that. And that quote was very interesting to me because I'm very interested in the idea of the body as a haunted house. You know, the body is the space that we live in, and, you know, violence can be acted upon it, and violence can happen inside of it, and sometimes the doors don't open, and sometimes the windows don't open, and sometimes you can look out but you can't look in, you can look in but you can't look out, and I'm just very interested in that. So that for me I wanted to choose that quote because I was thinking about the body as a sort of self-contained house. And then the other quote, which is, "God should have made girls lethal when he made monsters of men," which is a poet by a British poet named Elizabeth Hewer. And I was also very interested in this idea that, you know, what does it mean that there is so much power disparity between men and women, and what does it mean that we need women to be, you know, that we want women to have weapons and to be dangerous because that's the only way they can survive, right? Both those quotes were very.
Our body can be a political weapon, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you think the readers read like this? As you're reading, as you see it?
Sorry, can you say it again?
How do you think the readers
Mm-hmm.
look at these phrases and look at these quotes and look at your writing? The same perspective of it?
Yeah, I think for some people they read it as a way of seeing themselves, and they see things that they've thought or things that they've experienced, and that's very powerful to them. For other people, I think the book gives them new ideas, which is really important to me. I've had people say, you know, I read this story and I never thought about it that way before, and, you know, and my thinking changed. Or I actually, when I was at Flip, there was a man and a woman came up to me, and the husband and wife, and the husband said, I read the first story in your book, The Husband Stitch, and I couldn't get it out of my head, and he said it changed the way he thought about his wife, and his wife said, yeah, it did, and I was like, oh my God, you know?
I did.
So sometimes it's more and it's more, you can see it, you can imagine it, people like, I think differently reading that story. In the same way that, like, you know, when I read things that are important to me, I also will think differently after reading them. And I think that, and there's also this sense of, or you just see yourself, or you just take pleasure in the story. So I think readers have different reactions to it.
Yeah, so you're changing people.
I hope so. I really think so.
This is good. What about the project, your book, to become television series? Yeah.
Yes.
FX.
Yes.
Is that something like you love it?
I'm very excited about it. I don't have to write it, which is great because I don't know how to write a TV show. But I get to participate with the writer of the show, so she sends me her scripts and I look at them and send them back to her some thoughts, and it's very exciting. I love TV, so I'm really excited about it happening.
Yeah, it's now you not be the writer, you be just
I'm a producer, I'm a consultant for this one. Mm-hmm.
And how you feel okay like this, with this?
Yeah, no, I like it. No, I mean, they did ask me if I wanted to work on it, but I have a lot of other projects right now, and I said, I don't know how to write a television script, and I would rather somebody write it who knows how to do it than me. So I'm happy about it. I'm excited.
Yeah, very good. And Carmen, could you please talk about, as you are considered one of the most important writers in queer literature, what's new we can talk about this? What's these conversations and how which point you'd like to stay? Like, this is very important to be talking. It's a conversation, not the same thing. Something new in this.
Yeah, well, so I have a memoir coming out this year in the United States in November. And the reason, and I wrote it because I wanted to talk about domestic violence in LGBT relationships, which was very important for me to talk about because it's a thing that doesn't really come up very much. And it was important to me to write the story that I wanted to see. So I looked for it, I didn't find it, and then I wanted to find it. And so I made it, So that's something to me that doesn't get talked about a lot. I mean, I feel like also in Her Body and Other Parties, there's, there's also a story in there about domestic violence and LGBT relationships. There's also, there's stories about just the casual privilege men feel over women's bodies. There's stories about illness and contagion. So I'm just really interested in all of these elements, and I wrote them because I wanted to see them in the world.
And these issues are very new because people don't think about like this. There's no domestic violence. No.
Yeah, well, the issue isn't new. Sometimes the conversation is new or feels new, but these things have been around. I mean, I didn't. It's people kept asking me, oh, did you just write this book because of Me Too and because of Donald Trump in the United States? And I was like, no, I wrote this book 7 years before all of that started. Because the fact is that even though these conversations come up and feel new, what they're reflecting is just this very ancient, horrible tradition of sexism and of hatred and of violence. That's not new, and that's why I worry that nothing will get fixed, because I feel like we have the conversations and we feel like it's new over and over, and it's never new,
And do you think it's a bit difficult to be a writer under Trump government? I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I think it's
I mean, it's difficult in the sense that it's very distracting and it's very hard to make art when also it feels like everything is falling apart. So right now in the United States, and I mean Trump is terrible, but Trump is a symptom of a problem. He's not the cause, he is what happens when certain types of people, racist people, sexist people, feel empowered and feel like they want something. And so it's hard in that every day it's so horrible and it gets worse and worse that it feels weird to be writing. I want to be like, I feel like I'm not doing anything if I'm just writing a book that feels so silly, it feels so trivial when Trump is literally putting people in cages and the United States is just, it's awful, it's really bad. And so, it's strange to kind of be making art. It feels like I'm doing macrame, like it feels very trivial. And then, part of it is reminding myself that art is still very important. And also part of it is remembering there are other things you can do, calling your politicians and protesting and, putting money where it needs to go to help, the causes that you believe in. So, it's sort of a mix of both. But it's certainly hard. I think just because everybody feels very distracted and very stressed out all the time.
And I think for you especially very disappointed because you are a daughter of immigrants, aren't you? How do you feel writing as a daughter of immigrants in America? Can you talk about this?
Yeah, a granddaughter of immigrants. But my grandfather actually, who came from Cuba, he passed away very recently, and I've been thinking a lot about him sort of in this conversation about, thinking about, if he had sort of been more sort of cognizant during this time, what he would have said about, just about, Trump and about immigration in the United States and how he would have felt about it. And it's horrible. I mean, it's also strange because I feel like also even in my own family, there are people in my family, not my immediate family, but people in my extended family who voted for Donald Trump, and I wanted to say to them, what is wrong? What's wrong with you? Everybody, you came from immigrants. My family is very recently immigrated to the United States. What is it what are you so afraid of? What? And I don't know. And that's what makes it so hard. It makes it hard to function because it's you can barely understand what's going through people's heads except for the worst,
Are you optimistic for the future? No.
I wish I could say I was.
Well,
I feel bad. I said that once at an event in New York City, and this woman came up to me afterwards and she said, "Are you in therapy?" And I was like, I am in therapy. I'm in so much therapy. I love therapy, but also stuff's real bad. And I think we should act as if we can, like I said, you still have to help people get what they need, to help people be stronger. You have to help, give people, help people when they are struggling and, when they're, things are really bad. But I don't think we can count on things will be better one day, because I think that people think that and then they don't make things better.
Yeah.
They just say, well, this is temporary, it'll pass, but that doesn't always pass,
So that's why I have to keep writing this style, this way, and provoking and instigating. And again, I don't know if everybody knows this role I have in your book. Did you imagine this, or someone created this?
That was created by Planeta. That's not from my American version. I love it. It's beautiful. Yeah. I gasped when I got it in the mail.
There are things you write. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Any story. Each story has something to do with this. Did you like it?
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
You have never imagined something like this?
No, not until I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very wonderful. And just thinking we can finish here. I have one question for you. The literature can be and must be funny, not anguish, not about survivors. What's your last? For this interview. Advice can talk about this, to say this word for people who is afraid, who is thinking queer literature or living like differently, can be so terrifying in government like this kind of state.
You're saying, are you asking about advice for those people?
Because we don't have an advice for people, but what would you say to these readers?
Such a good question. To not be afraid, to create yourself, to make art for yourself, make art where you don't see it, where you are looking for it, you can't find it, lifting other people up who their voices aren't being heard.
No.
Yeah.
That's what happens to you when you write.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know much more about yourself when you are writing. It helps you.
Yeah, when I write, I always am learning something new about myself, which is why writing is hard, because when you write, you're trying to figure out what you think, which is a really hard thing to know. Everyone thinks they know what they think.
Yeah.
But I think it takes a lot of focus to figure out what it is you're actually thinking. So you're always writing toward yourself in some way.
And can you tell us a kind of this moment you had while you were writing?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Give an example with you, if you can talk about this. I didn't know, but I knew that. But now it's on the surface.
So I have a character in one of my stories. I don't know what the Portuguese title is, but it's 8 Bites in English. And the story is about a woman who is fat and gets weight loss surgery, like gastric bypass surgery, and loses a bunch of weight. And then the weight that leaves her becomes like a fat ghost that brings her things and talks to her and comforts her. But when I was writing it, I was trying to sort of thinking about how I felt about, weight loss surgery and about the way we think about fatness. And I knew it bothered me, but I didn't know why. And I was having trouble kind of figuring out what it was that I was trying to say. And then I had this character who was also very not me. I mean, she was this older woman, she was sort of the opposite of me. So there's a character in the story that is me, but she's the daughter, and you never see her on the page. She's sort of off on the phone. And as I was writing it, I realized that what was bothering me so badly was that, our bodies do so much for us and take care of us, and we're so ungrateful to them, and we punish them very badly. And so there's a scene where she finds it in the basement, and she hits it. She hits it with a stick over and over again. And then it just keeps coming back to her, and it keeps bringing her things. And when she dies at the very end of the story, is at a very old age, the fat ghost comes and picks her up and takes her away. And it was only that writing that story that I realized what bothered me so much was that we treat our bodies so badly, and that our bodies do nothing but help us, and we do nothing but punish them. But it took me writing a story like that, and having that character and writing that story to understand that that's what I was thinking, which is really hard.
But loving our body is a resistance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because you know what? Capitalism, companies, they rely on us hating our bodies. They rely on us wanting to lose weight, to have better skin, to have, and I say this as somebody who, loves clothes. I say, I understand that, but also they're always telling you that you don't have something and that they need to sell you the thing that you need. And I think loving yourself isn't a radical act. It is exactly what they don't want you to do. Because if you love yourself, they have nothing to sell you.
You are against an industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I already had fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a question for our audience.
It's from Ponto Edita. Do you think that living in strange times, as we're living both in the US and Brazil, have also been fueling artists in new, unexpected ways? How so?
That people are responding to the political moment. Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think yes. I think that the thing about writing that's so interesting is that a lot of art is delayed. So you don't. It's a thing doesn't happen and the art happens right away, but there's a little bit of time. So I feel starting now and sort of moving into the future, we're going to be getting a lot of really, really interesting work. but I do feel like there's something really interesting, like seeing, sort of radically new and interesting television and film and books. I'm thinking in particular, like just off the top of my head, about Atlanta. I don't know if you guys have seen Atlanta, or like Killing Eve, like shows that it's not directly about, because also then you have like The Handmaid's Tale, which is like a little more sort of a direct, like obvious sort of analog, or there's something very like similar there. But I also think that just like the fact that places are looking for new voices, and they are sort of, trying to help like move people along, and are trying to get like new voices into the mix so that like we can sort of begin to like push back against these places. And that's a big deal, especially when big like publishers or TV or or like production companies are like putting money and resources behind it. I mean, it's a good sign. So yeah.
There's another question from Thiago. He's asking, do you have any favorite Brazilian writer? Do you know?
Clarice Lispector.
Yes, that's great.
I love the Passion According to GH. Is I don't know what the title is in Portuguese, but it's about the cockroach that gets closed in the cupboard, and it's really good. It's a great novel.
So how about your second time in Brazil? How have you been here? How have you done here?
I love it here. Yeah. I'm sad I have to go home.
Ok, thank you, Carmen Maria Machado e Mônica Arouca. Bom, antes de Carmen voltar, né, para Filadélfia,
Yes.
Ok, amanhã às 19h30 terá um bate-papo no Sesc Avenida Paulista com a Carmen Maria Machado, mediado pela jornalista e mestre em estudos de ficção científica, Cláudia Fusco. Em seguida, haverá também uma sessão de autógrafos do livro Corpo, Dela e Outras Farras. Could you show this, please? Ok, gente, então não percam amanhã no Sesc Avenida Paulista, 19h30, entrada franca. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Carmen,